Alright, hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So, yesterday's top 5 video did pretty good, so I'm actually thinking I'm going to do another top 5 video today, and today's top 5 video is going to be the top 5 best tanks for improving your stats. Now, there's a couple things about this that I will be leaving out. This is tier 10 only because generally that's where you want to focus your stats on if you're trying to get good stats. Generally, you're trying to get them at tier 10, and I'm also excluding all premium and collector's tanks because those aren't really fair if somebody is a free-to-play player, and then that kind of just ruins the list because then they don't get a full list of tanks to improve their stats on. So all these tanks are tech tree vehicles, which, I mean, yeah. So those were the two things. So no tier 9 or anything like that below, and no premiums or collectors in this list. Now, I would have, if I had had more time today, which I sadly don't, I would have made a, I would have had gameplay of all the tanks in this list, but I don't have gameplay just because I didn't have the time to take all these tanks out and get some battles. Just wasn't a good enough, there wasn't enough time today. That's all I'll say. Anyway, so coming in at number 5, we are going to be having the E3. Now, this is going to be the only TD on the entire list, and I really just wanted to include a TD in this list and not make it all, you know, meta standard tanks and stuff like that. So I thought, what is a good TD that you can actually improve your stats in? And that is definitely the T110E3. This tank is an absolute beast. It's almost a heavy tank. It has an absolutely amazing frontal armor profile, has the speed boost, so you can actually get around the battlefield decently quickly, as well has a very nice gun on this tank, of course, 640 alpha, nice pin, and some okay accuracy. The accuracy probably could be better on the dispersion a little. You've got 1800 HP. You have, what's the DPM? 2784 DPM, around a 13.79 second reload, 295 millimeters of penetration on your AP, 375 on your APCR, 90 on your HE, and of course 640 alpha. Here's the only really issue I have with this tank at all, is the 5.1 second aiming time and the 3.347 dispersion. Other than that, it's amazing. I mean, you have a decent DPM. I mean, it's not like amazing DPM or anything like that, but it really doesn't matter because you have such a good armor profile. You just bounce everything in between your shots, and you have 8 degrees of gun depression as well, so you can go hold down. And overall, it is a great tank for improving your stats, and if you don't want to just spam meta tanks. Alright, moving on to the number 4 spot, we're going to be heading over to the Chinese line. Now, this is going to be the WZ, excuse me, 121. Now, this will be the only medium tank on the list. I also wanted to include a medium tank since they're not quite as much meta as they used to be, but this one right here still is absolutely amazing for improving your stats in. This is one of my favorite tanks to play. It is an absolute beast on the battlefield. You can get out absolutely amazing games in this because of that big alpha on this tank, 420 alpha, but even with that high alpha, highest medium alpha at tier 10, you'd be expecting a pretty long reload. But no, 7.33 second reload, giving it 3,440 DPM. I'm pretty sure the only tank with more DPM for mediums at tier 10 is the Leopard 1, which if it's not much more either, it is very close. The only issues with this tank is the penetration. It is a little low, 245 on your AP and 290 on your heat. But, of course, kind of the standard, I mean the staple of the Chinese medium tanks is that super quick aiming time, 2.6 seconds aiming time. Unfortunately, though, they do have the big dispersion of 0.335, which does make it hard for snapshots, but if you just stop for like 1 second, you're going to be completely aimed in and get a pretty accurate shot. As well, along with this tank, you come with pretty good mobility, 56 kilometers an hour forward and 20 in reverse. You can get up to some good top speeds, and as well a very strong turret. And if you angle the hole correctly, it can get a lot of bounces as well. Overall, making this a very easy to tank to farm up a lot of damage in, as well as carry, allowing you to win more games and overall improve your stats. So we're going to be heading over now to the Germans, where we're going to be having our first super heavy of the list, and that is going to be the E100. Now, this tank I think is really good for improving stats, and some people don't like this tank as much, but I think it is an amazing tank just because of the gun, the armor, the HP. It allows you to be a very durable tank, allowing you to farm up a lot of damage if you can. The strong points of this, of course, is having that massive 640 alpha gun on here, along with that 960 alpha HE, which allows you to farm up a lot of damage very quickly. As well, on this tank, of course, it is a German super heavy, so you have by far the most HP of any tanks on this list. Base of 2,750 HP. As well, you have very good armor if you know how to angle it. You gotta angle the turret though, otherwise you're not really gonna bounce too much from those heat shells. But if you do know how to angle the turret, which honestly it's a pretty easy way to angle your turret, to learn how to angle your tank, and it's not gonna take you too long to get a hold of, you're gonna be bouncing quite a few shells. And with that armor and HP and alpha, this gives this tank a very good durability, allowing you to easily win games in a lot of other tanks wouldn't be able to do, because of not only that big alpha, but of course its durability. So overall, I find this tank good for winning and improving your damage as well. So overall, a pretty good stat improver. Moving on to number 2, we're going to be moving over to the European line. And we're going to be having the Chronovogen. Now, the Chronovogen is an absolutely amazing tank, one of my favorites at tier 10, as you can tell by the 711,000 collector XP or whatever on this tank. But the Chronovogen is very good for improving statistics. Obviously it is, because it is on second place in this list. This tank, of course, has nice HP, 2,650, giving it a pretty good durability, as well the best turret in the game, in my opinion. This turret is absolutely amazing. The hatches are almost impossible to hit unless the turret is aiming down. It can't be pinned by almost anything. Only right underneath the gun mantlet, if you're on like heat on something, is about the only place you can pin, and you have to be very lucky there. Or a Horai when the turret is looking down, a Horai with premium might be able to penetrate it if it gets a lucky shot. And overall, it's just an amazing armor profile. As well, the frontal armor on the upper glacis or whatever, that is very troll as well if you are at an angle or anything like that. And as well, the side armor on this tank is pretty beefy as well, along with, of course, the auto-reloading gun, which does have horrible DPM, as you can see, under 2,000, but it's a little misleading, because actually it's more than that, because you have 1,200 damage, and then when you pumped out that, then you're pretty much your DPM of 2,000 starts, so you almost have more like 3,000 or so DPM if you have a full clip loaded, which most of the times when you're going into a 1v1 engagement, you have at least 2 shells loaded, giving you actually not that bad of DPM, which is why the DPM is a little misleading on this tank. And of course, one thing I love about the Chronovogen is the ability to dump out that 1,200 damage so quickly, but then again in another 10 seconds, dump out another 400, get into a face hug or something like that, and you can easily farm up something like an E100, a mouse, anything like that, and easily come out on top. As well, something about this tank is it has amazing penetration. The gun has 271 millimeters on its standard and 374 on the heat. If you run calibrated, the heat on this tank is absolutely amazing, and I highly recommend it, because obviously you can't run gun rammer on this, so you obviously want to be running calibrated, and trust me, it is amazing. The accuracy isn't the best on the tank, but to be honest, it really doesn't matter. You don't really need the accuracy in this tank. Overall, amazing tank for winning, for carrying, and farming damage. That's why this has the second spot. Now, coming in at number 1, I'm sure most of you have already guessed this, and it is the IS-4. Now, the IS-4, of course, is pretty much the most OP tier 10 in the game at the minute, and the Chronovogen for me is close, almost in a tie with the IS-4 for improving your stats, but I still gotta say the IS-4 is probably gonna be the best, just because of this tank's combination of mobility, armor, gun. Everything on this tank is pretty much amazing. You have 2,650 millimeter HP. You have amazing armor. This tank has an insane turret, great side armor, making it very good for side scraping, and a very strong hull as well. You combine that with a decent gun. The gun doesn't have the most DPM, but it has very nice heat penetration of 340. And if you're running calibrated, which I'm pretty sure I don't run calibrated because you just don't need it on the heat. If you run rammer, it does bring your reload down. I'm pretty sure. What am I running? I want to check. Actually, what am I running? I can't see. Anyway, I'm not sure, but it doesn't really matter too much. You have around a 10-second reload or so on that, giving you around 2,600 DPM, which isn't the most, but it's still enough where you're able to farm out games very well. The accuracy isn't the best on the tank as well, but again, on something like in a Russian tank, who needs accuracy anyway? It's nothing to worry about. You have 6 degrees of gun depression, 43 km/h forward speed, and of course the best thing about the IS-4 is the armor profile. The armor profile of this tank is amazing, like I said, and when you combine that with a decent gun and good mobility, it just makes for a tank that can easily farm up great games by either face hugging, going hold down you can kind of do, not really too well because of the gun depression, or just going with mediums with that mobility and brawling where you always come out on top, unless it's like a 4v1 or something like that. So overall the IS-4 is amazing for winning, for getting damage, and just everything all together. And that is why that tank is going to be #1 on the list for the best tanks for improving stats. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts on the list and if you would change anything around and where you would put it. Go ahead and comment that down below in the comment section. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.